Now see here, there are two kinds of people throughout the world. Those who run from the critiques and those who do the critiquing. I know which one is better, though. Welcome, everyone, to the latest and greatest and wettest of Pokemon movies. The one from my childhood that I just remembered is that one that had Kyogre in it. It is...
How does he keep doing this?
AKA the movie that will be critiqued by myself, Jovahexion, my fellow New York State citizen, Digimon.
I will not be bitching about Pokemon journeys here.
The Welsh woman of Wales, Shiroi.
I kind of like the movie.
And the Prince of Portugal himself, Pedro Profrus Periwinkle
Pokemon.
Pokemon. It's Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea.
The Japanese title for this is Pokemon Ranger and the Prince of the Sea Manaphy.
Yes, wonderful. Alright then, so yes, I remembered this movie because from my childhood, I kinda saw like the last 15 minutes of it. So I had a good time. I mainly remembered it as that Pokemon short as far as I knew as a kid, with the pirate in it. And, yeah. So, this is actually my first time getting to see this movie proper and full. As for what I saw, well, how about we get to our synopsis, shall we?
Alright, before we start, allegedly, I need to look into it, because I remember looking this up. This wasn't supposed to have Ash or any of the characters in it. It was supposed to be just about Jack Walker.
That would explain why this was called Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. Seeing as how, yes, it's a full-on Pokemon Ranger film. That said, I'm fine with Ash and Company getting involved. Although, it also fits because, getting a bit ahead of myself, folks, here, but humans fight humans more than Pokemon fight Pokemon in this movie.
They also decided to add them there because they figured the relationship between May and Manaphy would be cute.
Which, you know what, I'm gonna give it credit, it was. Like, I was expecting to just be annoyed by it, and I was at first, but no, I feel like it got a proper progression here and there. So, our story begins once again with narration, daring you to count how many Pokemon there are, as if they are just as much the grains of sand you'll find on your local beach. 'Cause at this point in time, yeah, there were a lot of them, and, they were only growing from there. So, our story properly begins with a pirate crew in this awesome-looking submarine, and I will give this movie credit. While they do have a ton of CGI, I feel like this is probably the better used CGI we've gotten from Pokemon stuff. Like, it feels well enough integrated to the point where I wasn't too put off by it. And thank goodness, because holy cow, there is a ton of CGI in this movie. So I'm glad that it at least looks proper here and there.
It's mostly for environmental shots, though, if I remember right.
Including sometimes CG Pokemon and humans, which, yeah, come to think of it, we find a few helicopters accompanied by this awesome-looking submarine that have found an odd-looking egg. The pirate captain, known as the Phantom, leads his band of thieves to try and capture this egg, which they do, sucking it up into a capsule, and he intends to hatch it. That is, until one of his crew members suddenly up and betrays him. We soon find out that this guy's name is Jack Walker, and oh boy, me oh my, he has quite a saxophone-y theme. I mean, granted, this movie in general seems to like to use the saxophone a lot, to the point where I'd wonder if this is probably in the same universe as Metal Gear Solid.
When the movie first started, like, this character, I thought he'd kiss himself if he could.
Honestly, I'll admit, Again, I think the best way to describe this movie as a whole is that it's something of a welcome surprise for me. Like, I was expecting to come back to this movie finding just a ton of problems, like, oh, I only really found it cool because of the pirate, but no, I was pleasantly surprised to see that stuff I expected to be annoyed by people as well actually turned out to be relatively fine. Although Jack has this interesting catchphrase about how the words give up are not in his dictionary, to which others offer to lend him theirs. Speaking of which, I will give kudos to the Phantom here. Even though he is water-based, he still remembers, yeah, I should probably also use other Pokemon so that I'm not too predictable, since he has stuff like a Pinsir and a Parasect with him as well, which he tries to use to catch Jack with. Yeah. Like, honestly, that's kind of a problem with a lot of villains and gym leaders in general. Although, gym leaders have more of a reason for it, because, gotta stick with a theme and all.
Can I say that the villain for this movie looks like he came out of a Wario Land game?
I feel like he looks like, he looks like he would fit in a lot of franchises. He looks like he would fit in Wario Land, looks like he would fit in Final Fantasy.
Looks like he would fit in a Ghibli movie.
Definitely. But thankfully
that was my first thought, actually.
One of the 80s ones, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
He also looks like he wouldn't be too out of place in the Layton plot as well.
Or Blink the Time Sweeper.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thankfully, he does also fit the Pokemon aesthetic here. And again, I have to wonder, is he a villain in any of the games? Pokemon Ranger or Mainline?
I don't know.
Oh, wow. Either way, though, he's pretty awesome. Like, I'll give him credit, he does not give up, because he chases Jack to the very end. Because Jack has a bit of a disadvantage here in that he has no Pokeballs on him. Thankfully, he has something else, though, called the Style Capture, which basically simulates the effects of having a Pokemon from a Pokeball, except it's a lot more temporary. I'm guessing what it does is give the Pokemon a playful suggestion to help him, and hopefully doesn't mind control them to help him, because if it does mind control them, that's kind of messed up, especially since we later see he can use it on even flipping Zapdos, so yeah.
It's probably a device for convenience sake, because if you're going on missions all the time and having to prep different Pokemon for whatever, it's probably just easier to use whatever's out there.
So Jack manages to escape using one of the Manta Ray Pokemon here. However, the Phantom is not too deterred. So, let's cut to the main action, where we find Ash, May, Pikachu, Brock, and Max dying from heat stroke. I mean,
okay, can I complain about this real quick?
Go on.
Ash, Brock, you have water Pokemon.
Well, to be fair, Ash has a Corphish, which I don't think his Corphish can necessarily produce water just on demand.
It can use Bubble Beam, it counts.
Well, Bubble Beam is more so bubbles. You kind of need more water in that regard.
Okay, what's Brock's He was basically the water trainer throughout Advance.
Hold on, which water Pokemon did he have at this time?
He had Ludicolo and Marshtomp.
He hadn't given those away yet, had he?
He gave the Ludicolo away to his family, but Marshtomp was with him.
Maybe
So it's like, why don't you just use your water Pokemon to drink water? Unless they explain it's like they can't because it's not digestible or something like that.
Regardless, though, yeah, they are kind of stranded. Well, not so much stranded, but lost out in the heat. Thankfully, they come across a traveling circus of water performers here. One of them is a girl called Elizabeth, who Brock just happens to know a lot about.
Repeat the same gag from the last movie.
Okay.
This is not the second movie in a row where Brock knows about this girl and has okay. If I remember correctly, doesn't have pictures of her in a notebook in this one. If I remember correctly,
He doesn't pull a David Cage in this movie.
This is Brock's quirk, quote unquote, is starting to become concerning.
Okay.
Starting?
Okay.
He's been doing this for years.
Okay, to his credit, like with the other trainer from Legend of Mew, she's a very famous person who, it's not too much of a surprise that he would know about her. anyway, they come across a circus of people, blue hairs and whatnot. I think that sort of has to do with their lineage. Not entirely, but whatever. Regardless, though, the people of this traveling train circus, as I like to call it, they host a water show of sorts. But interestingly enough, they have this silent clown who's also with a Bluezel here, who really seems to be interested in this certain little case, which seems to host the egg from the start of the movie. Wonder what that's about. And so do a certain trio who happen to spot our heroes, Team Rocket. Yeah, basically, they get taken into town to perform with the water trainers for a water show. Basically, they have psychic-type using Pokemon hold up bubbles of water, which allow them to basically swim while in midair. I'm gonna assume that they can breathe in those water balls, because for some reason, Ash and company are in those waters for quite a bit of time, but don't show any signs of struggling to breathe. Because that would have been messed up if that were the case. And Team Rocket happened to spot this little vase here after Bluezel steals it. Yeah, for some reason, Bluezel's really obsessed with that case. I'm not entirely sure why. However, Bluezel also brings May's attention to it. And it seems like that whatever's in there may be talking to May, because not too long after, May has a dream where she is swimming underwater with a bunch of Pokemon, and one in particular that she's never seen before. Monifee. Now, let me set the record straight here. Monifee is technically not a legendary type Pokemon. It's a mythical type here. There's a difference between the two. It's nice and wholesome here. However,
honestly, I wouldn't even mind. The problem I will argue is not even the time itself. It's more so the fact that Manaphy doesn't really have a character outside of the fact that he's cute.
Monifee...
And that's what makes it adorable.
Okay.
That's a lot of Pokemon, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Monifee definitely gets more done than Celebi does. I'm not going to even...
Joe, but that's a really low bar, you realize that, right?
Considering that Celebi was told in that movie is the most powerful Pokemon ever.
Yeah, like, no. I will give the makers of the stone credit. It feels like they learned from the likes of, they're kind of blundered with Pokemon Forever, and... Okay, maybe not even Jirachi Wishmaker, because they used Jirachi well enough in that movie. But regardless, though, I feel like Monifee is one of the better examples of the cutesy, mythical Pokemon that, actually is pretty useful in the long run. Seeing as how, well, again, kind of getting a bit ahead of ourselves here plot-wise, Monifee is very much the key to a lot of what goes on in this plot. But before we get to that, though, we have to deal with Team Rocket, who try to steal Monifee's egg here, and as a result, end up getting body swapped. Jessie gets put into Meowth's body, Meowth gets put into James' body, and James gets put in Jessie's body. He surprisingly does not seem to mind possibly having to stay like that forever. His rationale being, we'll be rich. Like, I would think there might be a few problems given your scenario, but, you know what they say, live life and all that. But anyway, Team Rocket try to make a grab for Manaphy, and they actually get away with it for a bit. Ash prepares to have Pikachu do the usual shock and jolt thing, but then the clown suddenly speaks up and warns them that, they're kind of holding Manaphy hostage here. So instead... the clown, who turns out to be Jackie from before, uses his style capture on a Furo to help Pikachu save the egg and send Team Rocket blasting off yet again. But all is not too well because beforehand, James had called in the Phantom. Yeah, it turns out the Phantom is in the Team Rocket Gazette. I actually do love the idea that Team Rocket have a Gazette that also networks with other criminals here, because the Phantom was apparently offering a reward in, so much as just exchange for information on the whereabouts of this thing. Which they do provide here, and I'll give him credit when he meets them later. His first instinct is actually just to give them their reward, so I'll give the Phantom credit. He may act like an over-the-top villain at times, but he does seem to be an honorable gentleman. I mean, as much as a pirate can be. Regardless, though, the chase is on as the captain and his right-hand man, I can't remember his name, sorry, but he also has a pirate parrot. They chase after. Ash and Jackie pull a little switcheroo, give him the slip here and there, and the Phantom shows off that he is actually pretty strong. Like, strong enough to lift a flipping boulder with Jack on top of it. Again, give him credit, that man is persistent among many things. I feel like Phantom is the franchise trying to make up for Vicious, like, cause, again, like Vicious, he's chasing after a mythical Pokemon, has something in mind. Like, here's the thing, unlike Vicious, his plans with Manaphy actually do become clear later on, whereas Vicious was just like, I guess I'll just control and be more powerful than the boss with supposedly the world's most powerful Pokemon, Celebi. Nah, Phantom is efficient in that regards here, and he almost does get the Pokemon, especially when his side right-hand man assaults them with a Beedrill. Thankfully, Ash has Pikachu use Volt Tackle to get the Beedrill off their pass. Unfortunately, a tussle over the egg causes it to slip out of the vase, which means it's up to May to catch it, which she does, and it proceeds to hatch in her hands. And Phantom is, of course, sad because his plan was to hatch it with his own two hands, which, to be fair, that is kind of clever, because when Manaphy hatches, he thinks that May's his mother, which makes me wonder if Phantom had hatched Manaphy, assuming he would have been wise enough to treat him well enough, technically he might have won the plot in that regard.
Yeah. Well, they're basically trying to give May her own Togepi equivalent with this, clearly.
So yeah, Manaphy hatches. Phantom still is determined to capture him, but thankfully they managed to give him the slip. To which Phantom proceeds to then literally harpoon them with helicopters onto their trailer. Again, give the guy credit, he is relentless and very adaptable to situations, which forces them to ditch the trailer and make a run for it in the front car, which is shaped like a ship. And they make it to the ruins, where it turns out Team Rocket happened to land. And they're back to normal now. But why is this? More on that later. Either way, though, the team make their escape down into the waterways using these interesting beads, the mark of the water people. Yeah, that's right. Basically, it turns out Elizabeth and her family are all descendants of the people of the water, which I'm just gonna call Pokemon's equivalent to Atlantis when you get down to it. Like, Sunken City, rises here and there, even has mystical beads like the Disney movie Atlantis, so yeah, Pokemon Atlantis. There you go. I do think one of the things that was a missed opportunity was not making the Phantom also a descendant of the water people. Like, he mentions he had to do a lot of hard stuff to get that, which implies he may have flipping killed some people. Like, Jesus Christ, my dude, you're hardcore. But yeah, thankfully they managed to get away. However, the captain still has something of a backup plan here. However, when he comes back out, he meets Team Rocket, who are willing to help. Again, give him credit, he just says to his right-hand man to give them their reward. So, again, he is honor-bound, and he didn't just go, oh, well, I didn't catch the egg, so you get nothing. Like, no, he was willing to just pay them and be on his way. Granted, part of that may have been annoyance at them, but again, you know, he's something of a pragmatic villain here, and which helps out in the long run. Team Rocket...
something Pedro and I pointed out with him is, with his design, you expect him to be a little more comedic than he actually is, but sometimes they play him a bit too straight.
I wonder if that's part of the idea to lull you into a false sense of security, like you think, oh, he's this cartoon, he's not going to be that much a threat, until it turns out, no, he very much is a threat.
I guess it's just one of those things where usually I think that it works better when you do it via like having him be comedic first and then reveal himself. Because the thing about his design is that his design feels like him straight out of Zack and Wiki for the Wii, and when he starts doing all the villainous stuff that Joe even just brought up, it like again there's that thing again. This would be one of those things if he was in like Jova said, a Leighton episode or something like that. But no, like he looks so radically different design-wise than everybody else. I feel like a more traditional Sugimori design would have just worked just fine for this character.
If I'm to be honest, we've had other characters who look similar like him in the Pokemon universe before, even as early as Heroes, so while he does have a bit of those art styles from other franchises, I'd say he still fits in the Pokemon genre of art style here. As for his silliness, to be fair, we do get a lot of comedic bits with him when he gets foiled here and there, so there is technically the comedy there before he gets really sinister come near the end. I'd say he's fine enough. Maybe there could have been a bit more of a balance, but I'm happy with what we got. And speaking of which, he still has a plan here to bait a trap. Now, I'll give the movie credit. I thought he was going to jump them as soon as he could find them when they came out the other end of that ruins. But no, sorry, those ruins. But no, he has a bit more of a long-term plan in mind. For now, though, let's go back to our heroes who escape out through the ruins and make it to a coastal city here and there, where Jackie says, well, I'm happy for your help, but soon I will have to go, which I don't know if this was the movie trying to fake us out, thinking that, oh, this is where the venture would end soon, or if it's more like the movie being tongue-in-cheek about the matter, because, yeah, Jack has this kind of thing where he's like, no, I have to do this alone as a ranger, even though I'm literally having Elizabeth's whole family help me. But
honestly, I thought they were starting to set him up as a traitor or something.
You know what, I'll admit there were some shots like that, too, as well, which, you know, if they had something good in mind, I wouldn't have minded, but, no, he's on the up and up here. Regardless, though, he opts to leave with Manaphy, who has gotten pretty attached to May, to the point where, again, it will start to cry if it's not in her arms long enough, if it's aware of such. So, they start to leave on a ship, which Elizabeth's grandpa happened to host, along with his old friends who want to come as well, but he says, nah, it's too dangerous, y'all. However, they do encourage Ash and company to maybe try and still go, even though they feel like it just doesn't feel right. I do like that tongue-in-cheek line where Ash says, it feels weird to drop off like this. Like, it's almost like they're thinking, yeah, we usually get a big climax or something before the venture ends or whatnot. That said, they are determined to come, and it turns out Manaphy is determined that they come too, because Manaphy pulls another body swap, this time swapping Jack's body with Ash's body, and we get a little funny scene where Pikachu's confused when his master suddenly starts to have a different voice and acts differently as well. So, yeah, obviously Manaphy doesn't want to go without main company, so we gotta bring the kids along. So, where they're taking them is towards a legendary sea temple that the people of the water have some connection to. Apparently it only reveals itself during the time of the lunar eclipse, something that Elizabeth's parents and grandparent are very intent on seeing given their connection to it. Along the way, we get some more bonding between May and Manaphy, where, yeah, it does feel a bit fillerish, but I'll give him credit. In the end of the day, it does seem like a good bout to actually have May and Manaphy's relationships go through the motion, even to a point where Jack is kinda not too happy about that, since he fears that Manaphy might get a little too attached to May and tells her that it's Manaphy's destiny to, you know, be the prince of the sea and all that.
That was one of the scenes as well where I thought that he was going to betray them, because he was like, oh, you need to separate Manaphy and May, and it's like, okay.
They do kind of shoot him in some of those sinister looks for that here and there. That said, one thing I want to call into question, does it really have to be Manaphy's destiny to be ruler of the sea? Hell, if it's a legendary or mythical Pokemon's destiny to do that, well, it sure must suck about that Rayquaza that I caught in Pokemon Emerald, because he ain't no longer guarding the Sky Tower. Like, shoot, does this mean that we're monsters by catching legendaries in Pokeball since they're supposedly needed throughout the world here and there? Let's not
I'm
forget.
sure it's fine.
Project Mew wasn't exposed.
Let us not forget that in Gen 5 we literally capture God. Like, no.
That's 4. Gen 4.
Regardless, though, I do wonder, do you guys think Manaphy might have been better off actually sticking with May by the end of this movie?
I
Possibly?
will answer that question once we're done summarizing this plot.
Fair enough. So anyway, yeah, we get some scenes with them bonding, swimming around here. Oh, Dads, there's that scene that you might want to talk about. That's apparently the shipping scene between Ash and May, as you put it.
Yes. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but there is a scene where Ash and May are swimming and Leftists are swimming next to them as like
Those are the heart-shaped Pokemon, which...
Yeah, so it's one of those...
Wink, wink.
Obvious shipping baits.
I mean, you know what?
Unfortunately, I didn't pick up on this because I got too distracted by the CGI. Then Kuzu from SSMB told me, yeah, this movie at times felt like advanced shipping the movie.
Really? Like, I feel like maybe there's that one scene, but... to be fair, Ash and May do get into a lot of those serious situations. But yeah, okay, so there's that shipping scene here and there. Stuff goes on. And May feeling guilty after Jack tells her, yeah, no, you gotta prepare Manaphy to be separated from you. She tries her best to avoid Manaphy. Which, I'll admit, was pretty sad. Like, I can get Jack's logic here, so I don't think he was just being a dick on that matter. And it does lead to, again, something of an interesting moral with, rehabilitating a wild animal and possibly needing to let it go so that it can properly fend for itself out in the wild, too. That said, Manaphy is quite confused by this, especially when they arrive on an island not too far from the Sea Temple, where they let the Pokemon come out to play with Manaphy. However, May, coming out, suddenly ends up... she was trying to put on her bandana, but then the wind blows it off. Yeah, if anyone ever wanted to see May without her bandana on, this is the movie for you, because she has it off for a good portion of the movie, actually. And speaking of which...
Honestly, the bandana fits her. It's a real shame that RS kind of forgot that aspect of her design.
Yeah, instead giving her the ribbon and whatnot. I wonder how they explain that in the manga.
The Brendan counterpart just made her new clothes.
Oh, because he's really into that.
Yeah, he's a fashion diva.
Anyway, but yeah, Manaphy tries to get May's bandana back, which unfortunately takes him deeper and deeper into the sea. To which, when they realize... oh crap, he's missing, they dive back down. However, and I'll give him credit for this foresight, Ash's core fish gets left behind. This actually is something that helps explain what would have been a plot hole later down the line, so again, kudos to the movie makers for actually having the foresight on that. Because Corfish ended up way out there to the point where by the time he got back to the boat, Ash and company had left in this miniature sub, which happens to be connected to the ship. So they go searching for Manaphy, they find him after he's found May's bandana. Unfortunately, they get pulled from the ship's line by a riptide. Thankfully, Manaphy guides them to safety. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to them, the Phantom and his crew have been following the ship in their submarine here. They're often being, okay, you know what, we don't need to catch Manaphy, let's just let these morons lead us right to the temple. Which they do, essentially, as the captain follows their mini-sub and his own mini-sub, which Team Rocket also hitch a ride in. Like, I will give Team Rocket credit, this might be the movie that they've done the most in, that's actually been relevant to the plot for the most part. Sadly, where things go for them will not be the best, but we're getting there soon enough, as we finally reach the Sea Temple, which has some weird machinations given how certain things work. So the heroes surface inside the Sea Temple. It's fancy and all, but obviously nobody lives there anymore. Which honestly makes me wonder if maybe this might have been a case where it would have been best if maybe we could salvage the stuff here. Well, it turns out no. See, Phantom follows them in there, and since he knows some of the inscriptions, is able to get in, get ahead, use the watermark beads, which he reveals he had to do some tough stuff to get, and leads them all to the room with the sea crown. The sea crown is actually a pretty giant rock with a bunch of jewels stuck in it.
Can I quickly mention something at this point in the story?
Go on.
Okay, so there's some kind of ancient lore stuff here. There's also an ancient MacGuffin that the villain's trying to get, and that MacGuffin is also connected to the Pokemon of the week that this movie has, specifically Manaphy.
And the MacGuffin also happens to be jewels, which supposedly, according to legend, grant untold power to whoever wears the sea crown.
So, am I the only one starting to see a pattern here?
Yes, this is in fact a Sonic the Hedgehog plot.
Well, that too, but like, how many Pokemon movies have we had that basically have this this MacGuffin formula? Because
well, okay, let's see.
Pedro, I don't want to be that guy, but unfortunately, Pokemon lore has legendaries that can basically end the world. So they're just following through.
Yeah, I mean,
see, the reason I bring this up is because Lucario did a good job in breaking from that box. So I feel like, I mean, come on, guys, you can maybe do some more of that.
Wait, wasn't Lucario literally another MacGuffin plot hunt?
Well, I'll argue.
Oh, wait, never mind. You're talking about Lucario. Well,
the Lucario movie.
Even still, wasn't the tree kind of a giant MacGuffin palace? When you
because like Mew and the tree are connected, and if one thing happens to the other, they'll die.
I think the difference is there were actually some character things happening along the way in that movie.
Point taken. I guess it's one of those things where in Lucario, it felt like he was in the background, whereas the focus was entirely on something fresh, specifically Lucario's entire arc of, PTSD from what happened to him.
Honestly, to be fair, I'd say that while there is the legend in this movie, the legend doesn't feel like it takes precedent over some of the more important things, like the character interactions, seeing how relationships grow, wither, and proceed here and there. Like, sure, yeah, we are in search for, like, a MacGuffin. It doesn't feel like it overwhelms the plot as much as, say, Pokemon 2000 did. Which was...
the difference there is that didn't have a lot of character stuff. It was just go from A to B.
Yeah, it's called The Legend of Zelda.
Well, it depends on which Zelda you're talking about, but yeah.
Regardless, though, like, I feel like the legendary stuff here... Okay, I don't think it's too much of a problem because, one, it's not like it's another world-ending threat here and there. Like, this is literally just, hey, there happened to be this ancient civilization, disappeared with the sea and all, like... Honestly, that's one of the ones I'm more fine with, seeing as how it's very separate and local, essentially. Like, it doesn't feel like, we're suddenly piling legend upon legend. Compared to, like, say, oh, no, there are several potential world-ending threats out there, which is kind of just upping the ante for the sake of it at that point. I'd say this movie knows its limits in that regard, and while yes, we do have an epic climax, it doesn't feel like a climax that's literally just, oh, let's do every single crazy thing we can possibly do just for the sake of it. It feels like there's a purpose to it. Even when it does go flipping insane.
We will hold that thought until we get to that actual climax.
So anyway, the Phantom tries to take jewels out of the crown, which unfortunately starts to sink the palace. That ain't good.
I have a minor complaint. Why were the guys just standing there watching him do it? Like,
well,
guys, come on.
Well, Deji warned them that even if they attacked him all at once, he would defeat them. So clearly we can't attack him all at once. But it's okay because...
I know why. It's because there would be no plot.
Well, okay, to be fair, given what we find out later about his strength, technically, if they had just attacked him head on, he probably would have beaten them. Since
I mean, at least show it instead of just have the characters stand there like idiots.
No, that's fair. Although they do try to tell him to stop in the name of humanity and all that jazz. That being said, though, even if they tried to stop him, there is still the problem that the palace is sinking, which, yeah, trying to stop him is one thing, but we should probably get out before we drown ourselves. Thankfully, Jackie is caught up to them, since with the crown's power being weakened, the palace is made visible despite the lack of a lunar eclipse now in place, which made it visible at first. So Jackie engages the Phantom in combat, which unfortunately ends with the two being sucked down to ventilation shafts, one of which takes the Phantom, who has a jewel of his own on his person, despite trying to pack all the rest away. So, it's time to escape. Or so we think, because Manaphy goes back to try and save the temple, May falls in pursuit, as does Ash. So the group reconciles that what they need to do to fix the Sea Temple from, well, sinking any further is to put all the jewels back into the crown, which they proceed to do until, turns out one is missing. And unfortunately, it's not like they can go back to the sub either because the tide starts to take it out. The Phantom goes back towards his sub, which Team Rocket are then trying to commandeer with some treasure. However, neither of them get in there before they're swept away. However, Jack manages to catch a hold of the sub, and then the pirate's pet parrot just outright ditches him for Jack. Like, damn. That's going into the top anime betrayals.
Maybe he thought he'd treat him better, I don't know.
That's the thing, we don't see anything suggesting that he really treated the parrot badly, so what
No.
the hell?
Well, maybe he switches sides depending on who he thinks is winning, I don't know.
That would explain that.
So, also, another thing about you guys brought up the second movie earlier. That's actually one thing that I will that at the very least say that the second movie did better than this one. Remind me again, what's the name of the tribe that helps us? You know the girl that commandeers the submarine, right?
Melody?
That's it, Melody. What? No, wait. Melody's from the second movie. I'm talking about the girl from this movie.
You asked about the second movie. Oh, okay. For this movie, Elizabeth.
That's it, Elizabeth. What's the name of her tribe again?
The people of water.
That's it. People of the water. The people on the water, they basically give no real character / backstory to this tribe. Whereas at the very least in the second movie, they did explain the traditions and where they came from.
That's
in
fair.
Here, they're just a tribe that's just here, and it's basically just an excuse so that Elizabeth can basically drive them around in the sub. But whatever, let's just
Regardless, though, thankfully, Ash and Pikachu managed to find the jewel that got swept away from the Phantom, while the Phantom escapes on a mechanism from his sub that can transform into an underwater bike. I'll give the guy credit. Again, I will give the guy credit. He comes prepared. He certainly comes prepared.
He's compensated for something.
I mean, no, like I said, he's competent for most of the film, honestly. Very pragmatic, and I guess you have to be adaptable when your career takes you through water, which can kill you. So, yeah, in order to keep May and Manaphy safe, even though I don't think Manaphy really needs air to breathe, but whatever, Ash locks May, Manaphy, and tells Pikachu to look after them in this capsule of the Phantoms, which Team Rocket were riding in earlier, essentially. This will sort of act as, I think of it as kind of a coffin, but I guess to Ash's credit, there was kind of no other escape, and, it was probably best. And I will give Ash this, he sure shows off how athletic he can be, because he proceeds to brave the temple with the crystal and make his way back to the Sea Crown Room. Unfortunately, that place is submerged heavily in water, so Ash has struggles. And by struggles, I mean he nearly flipping drowns twice in that room. And what's worse, he drops the sea crystal down, just as he is losing consciousness. Manaphy uses Heart Swap, except not really, because instead of swapping bodies between May and Ash for whatever reason, he beams May and Pikachu's thoughts to Ash. And I swear, this bit is funny. Well, okay, it's supposed to be dramatic, but literally everyone in that scene has their hands clasped like they're flipping praying. And to be fair, the situation is, in fact, drastic enough that, yeah, this might be a time to be praying to Lord Arceus. So, Ash, with the new resourcefulness, the cheering on from May and Manaphy and Pikachu, which, see guys, May does in fact help out in the end, finally gives him the strength.
For a brief second, because
Yes.
of what the plot established earlier, I thought it was a brief body swap.
Me too, but nope, it turns out that's just May over in Ash's mind, which I guess Manaphy can do that as well. Like, they mentioned Heart Swap is where he switches the minds and bodies here. I don't recall if Manaphy can also do the whole telepathy thing. But whatever, it gives Ash the energy to. But maybe your theory is right, and for a moment that was actually May and Ash's body doing that. That said, though, Ash thankfully manages to put the last jewel in. But unfortunately for him, there's still all that water, and despite the glowing all around him, it's to be presumed that he's dead from drowning. But hey, at least the sea temple rises back up to look majestic standing on the water, so that's good. Shame about Ash dying, though. In fact,
Like at the end where it's like at the end of Eternal Diva where they raise the Ambrosian city.
yeah, I was about to say, there's a scene that literally... Okay, I'm wondering if the Layton movie might have taken some cues from this, because they do that twist where, oh, look at that, the whole palace was actually the crown itself, too.
Yeah, my first thought also with it just coming up, you know.
He knows a Pokemon fan, so that's definitely possible.
Yep. So, yes, sadly we must mourn Ash's sacrifice, but still look to the future here. Oh snap!
Yeah,
Wait,
sure.
hold on, the Phantom kidnaps Manaphy here, which... Okay, at first I thought, wait, why are you doing this? He does give a good reason, though. It's like, I may have lost a day, but if I have Manaphy, I can find the temple again, which...
Can I say something? Can I say something about that, by the way? You brought up Vicious before. The way he comes out of the water and grabs Manaphy, it's just like what Vicious does.
It's like I said, I feel like this movie was just saying, look, we're sorry for Vicious, we're actually going to do him proper this time. Because they
You see, they're secretly Yakuza villains. They hang out with from Zero.
It's interesting because I think Don Green would have fit really well as the Phantom.
You know...
Well, this was when they changed, so... You know.
Not true, but they did eventually start bringing back some of the 4Kids actors in other roles. So...
Hey, you know, you do have a point. I could have seen Dan Green working with the Phantom here. Granted, the guy who voices him is fine as well, too. But yeah, no, I definitely get what you mean. Like, again, I swear, Phantom feels like an apology for Vicious. And again, to give him credit, he is persistent as he uses the underwater water cycle bike to speed away with Manaphy. So all hope seems lost. But then, suddenly, a golden yellow light comes from the temple as suddenly water Pokemon begin to converge. Now, the people of the water did mention that the Sea Crown is meant to be the touchstone between them and water Pokemon, which means that it causes for some synergy. And legend does say that whoever wears the Sea Crown will get unlimited power. I just want to let you guys know, the legend was not lying. They technically did foreshadow this, so it's not like this comes completely out of nowhere. But ladies and gentlemen, my man, Ash Ketchum, goes Supersonic Saiyan.
Okay, so fun fact about this. In the Italian dub, Ash is voiced by Gohan, and apparently when he saw the scene, he bursted out laughing.
I will, okay.
That's funny.
Remember what I said when I said humans fight humans more than Pokemon fight Pokemon in this movie? I was not kidding. Ash literally is like having a supersonic boss fight with the Phantom. And you know what?
It's cool, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you know what? To give the Phantom credit, his first reaction is not to crap his pants in fear that a kid now surrounded with golden aura is coming for him. No, in fact, he actually dodges the boy for quite a bit of time.
No, see, the reason I'm bothered is because, again, why couldn't May be the one doing the cool Super Saiyan thing, though.
She does
Like,
later get to do that.
No, I agree. I agree.
I mean, she
No,
later
because-
does get to do it, and I can... Okay, I think I get it for, like, the final climax. I mean, I was expecting to be annoyed by that as well, and I am a tiny bit, but I guess the idea is May's angle was more so with the bond with Manaphy, whereas Ash handles a lot of the action in the plot here, so the pattern seems to go with the movie here and there. Like... And
it feels very Resurrection of F, where it's like, oh, Vegeta's gonna defeat Frieza. No, Goku does.
Okay, I think, to give him credit, I feel like this sort of ties into the mannerisms here. Like, yes, it would be in character for Ash to do something as bold and reckless as literally going into that giant pool of water where he could easily drown, whereas... May, for all her feistiness, she is not nearly as reckless as Ash, so technically since Ash was the one who put the jewel into the crown, it makes sense that he would be the one to do it. Now granted, the writers could have easily made a scenario where May could have put the crown in there,
Yes.
where... where, say, there wasn't water that would cause them to easily drown here and there, but given the circumstances as they were, I can see how it went plot-wise. I'm not going to act like it's perfect, though, and I do feel like it would have been cooler if we had to do it, we could have had it be where Ash and May both together do it. Of course, then the advanced shippers would have had a field day, because Misty never got to do anything that cool.
So there's in the poster for this movie, you have Ash riding a submarine. Maybe they could have just done that, where he rides a submarine and May... Like, he rides a submarine to save everybody from being in danger, and May could be the one being Super Saiyan.
No, like I said, I feel like, again, the Lucario movie did that. The Lucario had the climax involve both Ash and Lucario. I mean, I feel like they could have very easily had May and Ash maybe handle this together if they really insisted on Ash being there, Because I feel like the idea where May wants to help, and then suddenly Ash just puts her in this capsule thingy, and is just like, no, I'm going to do it.
Well, you can argue he was saving her.
I guess still, but I don't know. I feel like we could have allowed May to also help.
And I agree.
I will say this. I'm fine with what we got. I understand how it could have been better, though. Because, look, like me and Sherry said, despite those problems, I'm sorry, this is just too cool for me to dislike. No, Ash is literally going Super Saiyan Sonic. He's diving in and out of the water, doing battle with the Phantom here. He literally smashes into the guy, but he doesn't give up right from there because he had, again, another backup plan here. Because, if you may recall from earlier in the movie, he did tell his crew to wait in the bigger sub for his signal. And oh boy, what a signal that turns out to be, because then he literally attacks with the giant submarine. Oh, by the way, Kyorgi's here all of a sudden.
I do have to wonder why they both couldn't just do this together. If you really had to have Ash there, just let them both.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you could argue that they're trying to, keep the Pokemon out of danger, but they'll be fine.
Okay,
They've been through worse.
Okay, the reason story-wise is because Ash was the one down with the crown. That's why he's the one who gets the power for the time being. Which,
No, I'm talking about, he seals May in the capsule, and it's why can't she help?
Yeah.
Guess
there's no reason for that to happen.
Okay, like I said, character-wise, May would be a lot more nervous about doing this, which I guess, and I'm again...
No, she wouldn't.
Yeah, have you seen her in the rest of this movie?
It reminds me...
Again. Now hear me out here. I am not saying that she wouldn't ultimately go through it. What I'm trying to guess is Ash's rationale in regards to how much he knows May on this sort of stuff here and there. And how he probably wants to keep her safe and try and keep the risks to a minimum in regards to who might die here and there. And since Pikachu's involved, that boy wants to make sure he stays safe, so... Yeah, and I guess to be fair, the rationale is that, hey, at least Manaphy would be kept safe as well, with May watching over him. Again, I'm just trying to pick apart the rationale here. I don't feel like Ash stole this movie from May. She still does get her proper ending with Manaphy here. That said, I do get the disappointment that May was not at least involved in going Super Saiyan. I get how we got to that point. That said, I can think of ways that we could have had a better outcome here and there. Regardless, though, thanks to Ash's new Super Saiyan Sonic powers, water Pokemon start to converge. And like I said, even the flipping legendary himself, Kyorgi, is there. Like, I'll admit, when I first saw that small bit of the end of the movie, I thought, oh, there's a reason why Kyorgi's here. Nope. First time he shows up, which I guess, to be fair, since Manaphy is the Prince of the Sea, even Kyorgi's like, yeah, I gotta watch out for my homies and all that. So, why do I mention this? Because Kyorgi ends up being the flipping MVP when he blasts that submarine to smithereens. Like, and again, I have to give the Phantom credit. He was taking a legendary head-on, and at first he was winning because he had a supersonic ray used, which could pretty much disarray all the Pokemon in the area here.
Jova, there's something I need you to do.
What?
Say Kai.
Kai.
Now say Ogre.
Ogre.
Now put them together.
Kyogre.
Yes.
Okay.
You did it. Good job. I can't believe it. I'm proud of you.
It's not ogre till it's ogre.
No, moving on now.
Anyway.
You were warned, ogre and ogre again.
Shut up.
Regardless though. So, Kyogre actually comes to help, but even he is helpless in regards to what the Phantom has planned. And again, I will give the Phantom credit. He is a perfectly fine legendary Pokemon right there, but he is really just insistent on catching Manaphy. Like, good, you know what? Good work to the guy. He has focus here. And another way this is better than Pokemon Forever is that the legendary actually gets to do something without getting pwned throughout. And Manaphy, once again, ends up being useful here, because his song is able to counteract the effects of the supersonic wave, which allows them to go on a counterattack, with Wailords banging into it, and Kyogre literally hyper-blasting the submarine, to the point where the captain has to try and hold up his ship, and, well, no, gets crushed for it. I love how he literally goes, yeah, like what the characters on Red vs. Blue do whenever one of them dies. Which I wonder if that was a reference to it, Dodge.
Doubt. I don't know.
But yes, the day is saved, which means now everyone who's good can go Super Saiyan now. That's right. May, the people of the water, Max, Brock, Pikachu, and Ash, they all go Super Saiyan. And have a little bit of...
and Brock was also here.
Yeah, you see.
Okay. You know what? No. To be fair, Brock did do a lot of cooking in this movie, helped provide food and sustenance. He may not have done Pokemon battling, but let's be honest, guys, not a lot of people did Pokemon battling in this movie. So
that's fine. But I was to jump ahead. A few days ago, Pedro and Dwaz were watching another movie, a later movie, and they pointed out, Brock doesn't do anything in this one. I'm like, yeah, that's a problem. It starts becoming noticeable after a while.
Like,
he's just there.
I'd say Brock had enough of a presence in this movie, but if it is a growing problem in later movies, that does fill me with some concerns.
The problem is that you can tell that the writers don't really know. Okay, again, I'm speaking about later movies that I'm into, not just this one and the previous. You can tell that the writers are starting to really becoming at a loss of what to do with him, because they originally planned for Brock to leave after the Professor Ivy thing, but they brought him back, and now they really got to a point where his whole goo goo gaga for the girls shtick has gotten old by this point. So it really becomes a thing where the writers just don't want us to do. You could tell. I really get the feeling the writers really wanted to retire the character, but they didn't do see nothing because they remember the last time they tried doing this, people didn't like it.
Okay.
So
here's the thing.
So if it makes you feel better. Outside of the movies, in Diamond and Pearl, they had a much better idea what to do with him because they delve into his more brotherly medical side, since being a breeder, he knew how to take care of Pokemon and very knowledgeable. So that's where his character arc, he decides to become a doctor in the end and branch off, which was appropriate.
There's also kind of the elephant in the room here. Like, there's a big difference between nowadays and when Brock was originally retired, because the reason he was retired back then wasn't because the character had, nothing more to do. It was for kind of a different reason, right, Dids?
Yeah.
Whitewashing.
Yeah! Like, yikes. I mean, yes, I know Japan has had this issue for a while, but that sure ain't any heckin' excuse.
Yeah, and then they found out, people actually like Brock overseas and didn't care, so it's like, okay, fine, we'll bring him back.
And you know what? To agree with Ditch here, I don't think movies like this or later ones are a good representation, because no, he still did have quite a bit to do in the shows as well. So I'm glad they stuck out with him as long as they did. Regardless, though, everyone has fun going Super Saiyan, and they formed the shape of a crown with their supersonic golden lines around it, which again turns out to be the crown of the sea. So that's all well and good, but now is the time to say goodbye. We get a tear-filled goodbye between May and Manaphy, which again beats the hell out of anything having to do with Celebi.
And somehow, some way, we have to say goodbye.
Yes. That's
so depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, it is legit tear-jerking. Like, to their credit, they worked in the relationship between May and Manaphy relatively well, and it didn't just turn into a bout of annoying baby cries here. Like, again, similar to Jirachi Wishmaker, I was pleasantly surprised at how well fleshed out relationships between one of the characters and the mythical Pokemon were handled, essentially. Kudos to them on that. So, with that, the movie ends, and we get some gorgeous painted art showing some stuff happening after the events of the movie, essentially. The team make it back to home. They make a new trailer for the circus folk. They go out. Meanwhile, the Phantom and his men are arrested with the sub towed in, and Jack Walker has completed his mission. After which...
Oh yeah, you were in this.
Well, okay, to be fair, he did enough. And
Yeah. We just haven't mentioned him in a while. All right.
Yeah. And again, he takes control of Pedro's favorite electric type, Zapdos, using the style capture, and then flies off into the distance. Oh yeah, and it turns out Team Rocket got eaten by a whale lord, who then blowholes them out. Again, to give him credit, this is probably the movie that they have done the most in since, Did they do anything in The Legend of Lucario? Well, okay, they were off to rescue Meow, so there was that. But yeah, no,
I'm honest to God trying to think.
But that's the movie, which then ends with, surprisingly of all things, fan art.
Well, yeah. That's the thing in the Japanese versions of these movies, where... because basically everybody, for context, we watched the original Japanese version with the English audio put on top of it for the sake of, the movie being complete. Like, because basically what they do in the English versions of these movies is they cut before that fan art thing. Because that's in the Japanese versions of these movies have fan art at the end because reasons.
So that was Pokemon Ranger in the Temple of the Sea. Like I said, there are quite a few flaws with this one. But I was pleasantly surprised at how solid this movie is. Like, it for every flaw it has, it does something amazingly cool here. I do like the action shown throughout the movie. Again, despite there not being too many Pokemon battles, we still do get to see a fair share of some high-intense action here and there. So, yeah, no, I enjoyed this movie. Which, right, I believe, leads us to our award sections, Didge?
Okay, so we have the Go Award, which is the worst character in this movie.
My God, did Go piss on your wife, Didge?
Sure, you go first.
So for worst character, yes.
Worst character, yes.
Maybe.
It's hard to think of because, well, there's not really a particularly bad or terrible character in this movie.
I mean, I would say there's just a character that's just sort of there, which is probably the worst the characters get in this, and I'm gonna say it's Max.
Fair
Because
enough.
all he really does is make quips at May every now and then. And there's actually nothing wrong with anything he says. It's just that's just all he does is the problem.
Yeah, he's just being the little brother, especially since May is now a mom. So
Like the people from the Water Tribe, they don't do much either, but they still do a little bit more, and that's the only reason I didn't pick any of them. So yeah, it's Max.
They're there to be tour guides, and in Elizabeth's case, the driver.
Yeah.
And also to wag her
Max.
finger at the pirate man when he tries to steal the jewels, saying, "No, no, no, you must not take the sacred jewels of our people."
How useful of you. Anyway, go on.
Put those down. Anyway, that's it for me for that pick.
all right, I'll go next.
Go on.
Brock, he is literally just there at this point. I was like, okay,
He's there to simp.
yeah,
And cook. He does the cooking great. So much so that Elizabeth's mom jokes that he could teach Elizabeth how to cook better. Oh, anyway, I'll go next here. I'm gonna say Elizabeth's dad, if only because his role just mainly seems to be, oh, finally, we can reconnect with the history of our people. It will only be a little bit longer here and there. The lunar eclipse approaches soon. Soon we will be able to reconnect with our people. I mean, again, he's not a terrible character. It's just like, well, he's a very basic one, you know? I feel like out of Elizabeth's family, it's mainly Elizabeth and her grandfather that factor the most into the plot here and there. Elizabeth's parents are relatively vanilla, but hey, her mom has that funny bit where she seems to be very flustered by May complimenting her looks, saying that she looks young enough to be Elizabeth's sister. To which she does that comedic thing where she smacks her down, which is usually something that happens to the men in anime, so kudos for being progressive and having that happen to a female character instead. But yeah, no, Elizabeth's father. Pedro.
I
Elizabeth's
guess.
mother.
I guess. She's there. Oh yeah, actually, never mind. Like Joe brought up, yeah, she oh, Buck, can you teach my daughter how to cook since she's shit at it? So yeah, she's kind of a crap mom for doing that. So I'll go with her.
I think she was mainly just joking there, but sure. Alright then, next up.
now it's the Mewtwo Award where we talk about who's the best character.
So, favorite characters. I'll admit, there's a bit competing in my head for it between the likes of Ash, May, or the Phantom. Screw it, I'll say the Phantom here. Like, again, no, he is a great villain for this movie overall here. He's comedic, but he can also be threatening. He is pragmatic, and constantly has plan after plan up his sleeve. He's so adaptable. And he provides a nice climactic finish, again, where he manages to fend off Ash, who goes Super Saiyan Sonic. Tell me any other villain who has managed to do that in Pokemon. You can't.
Also, Jova likes pirates, so there's another point on that one.
I owe Pedro $5.
Wait. Okay, to be fair.
We made a side bet months ago.
Oh, come on, that was an easy win for whoever picked that.
Okay, to be fair, him being a pirate is not the main reason that I like him so much. And granted, like I said, there are other characters I could say are my favorite in this, like Ash! Holy cow! Long gone are the days where the boy just foolishly body checks something, although in this case, him body checking something while being Super Saiyan Sonic might actually work, but no, he gets stuff done in this movie, holy cow. And again, he goes Super Saiyan Sonic! Like, again, the fact that there being pirates in this movie isn't even the coolest thing to me says a lot. But nah, for these awards, I'm gonna give it to the original character Phantom. I would say also May had a very good relationship with Manaphy too. Hell, even Manaphy might be a contender here. Definitely not as much as the others, but like I said, he is one of the best handled mythical characters we've gotten since Mew himself, in both movies, mind you. And yes, there is a difference between mythical Pokemon and legendary Pokemon. Regardless, though, Phantom. Next. Dead.
Jack Walker, because no one said him.
Yeah, he's cool.
I'm gonna be honest. I wish this movie was about him.
No, that's a fair point.
Yeah. I guess you could say he got his movie stolen by both Ash and May.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Like this dude is so cool. Let's look at how he got that beginning. It's like, I wish we saw him more. And this is the first time the show has introduced Rangers into the mix, but Jack is the coolest one that they've shown.
The intro to the movie is pretty hype, actually.
Yeah.
I also love how they kind of gave Ash Jack's scene when he goes to take the jewel back to the Sea Crown. Like, maybe the idea was that Jack was there in spirit with him.
Yeah.
Although,
yeah, just like how Jack stole Ash's backstory, but we'll get to that.
Okay. You know what? To be fair, though, Jack does at least get his own climactic battle with the Phantom, in the room of pooling water. So there is that at least.
I think May, sure. Until, I still think Ash stole way too much of the spotlight from her. For the climax, but for the most part, this was very much her movie, at least to me. And I thought her relationship with Manaphy was pretty cute, and she actually isn't just sidelined like she is in a lot of the other movies. So yeah, May.
Pedro.
Sure.
I guess I'll go with Kyogre. Why not? Why? Because Kyogre was there to do a fun cameo, and that's it.
Huh, that isn't
Right,
blowing a gasket.
No, but can I say, one thing I will say also about May, since she brought it up, is that, one thing it's a shame that that this was the first movie without 4Kids, because I far prefer Veronica Taylor's May voice over this one.
Yeah.
Wait, I'll admit, I didn't really notice a difference in the voices when
Neither did I.
I did, because the thing is, remember, I watched the two movies back to back with Dwibs, so trust me, when you do, it becomes easy to notice. That's it, though. That's it. Next award. Go on.
All right. So best scene.
No. Don't you mean worst scene?
Oh yeah. Worst scene in the movie. Pedro, since you went last, I'll let you go first this time.
Okay, I don't want to be obvious and go with the scene where Ash leaves May behind, but I'm really struggling to come up with something else to pick.
Okay, I wouldn't call him so much him leaving her behind as much as he did make sure she'd be safe from the water.
Yeah, sure. Let me rephrase that. Regardless of justifications that Jove explained, I still don't care for that writing decision. So I'm just
neither do I.
That's fair. All right, then, Shiroi, you next.
How about the scene where Brock looked at things or something? I don't know.
Well, okay, I don't want to... This is kind of a cop-out, but I guess for me, you could pick pretty much any scene from the middle portion of the movie, because one of the problems I had with this movie, I didn't find any scene particularly bad, though I don't like the same scene as Pedro picked. The middle portion of the movie kind of drags a lot. I do not think this needed to be almost 2 hours. It's just so slow for what they're doing. Because the beginning and the end...
It's like the longest Pokemon movie, or one of them.
Okay, I'm going to give him credit that a lot of that middle portion is used to build up the relationship between May and Manaphy. I will admit, even I felt like there were some bits where, okay, so we start this new scene... Then suddenly that scene would just cut to black, and then we go to this scene in the middle point here and there, and it's like, I guess a lot of this movie is about this boat trip here and there. The plot
the bond is cute, and I already said that, but then everything else is just like, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Yeah.
So the beginning and the end of the movie are pretty hype/ridiculous, and then the middle is just so slow. So I guess any scene from the middle portion that doesn't involve like May and Manaphy, or just the pirates, I guess, because they're pretty funny.
Yeah.
And yeah. Sorry, I cannot pinpoint a specific scene that hasn't already been said.
That's fair. I'll go next then. My least favorite scene, when the pirate parrot just ditches the Phantom. Because, like, my dude, we did not see any bout of the Phantom mistreating you or anything. Like, that parrot just outright abandoned his master. Like, damn.
He probably just leaves to the winning team, like I said earlier.
Possibly in that regard. Alright then, Didge, your pick.
Alright, this is gonna be cheap. But it's the backstory that Jack gives Ash about why he became a Pokemon Ranger. And when Pedro and I saw this, we were like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, wait a minute. I remember reading about this in the junior novel and then seeing the episode where Ash is in the ice cave and he needs Charmander to help make him warm and all that.
Wait
Yeah,
a second.
Yes, Roy?
That wasn't that bit from the scene that was the whole thing for me. It was the song. Like, you did not need to go that hard for this. This did not warrant this.
Oh god, yeah, that song
And
really...
that song turns out to be the ending theme, like the power ballad from the ending. Like, Jesus, calm down.
Like, I'll give them credit. They definitely wanted to go all out with tugging at your heartstrings.
And then XY reuses that same episode as a plot point. That reveals like that's not the first time Ash has done that before. Like, oops.
But yeah, I mean, I will say this, like, I don't think it's a bad backstory, but I will admit, even I raised an eyebrow and I thought, this reminds me of that time Ash and company were stuck on the ice mountain. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's like, you guys could come. I know originality is hard, but it's one of those, you guys could come up with anything else.
Okay, I do wonder if maybe the idea was like, well, this being its own separate movie, you know, that was going to be his backstory and it would have been just fine. But, you know, when Ash and company got at it, it was too far in to change that bit. That's just my guess. Anyway.
I mean, it would have been funny for Ash to be like, wow, this story sounds familiar.
Yes. It would
What a coincidence.
Like, huh.
Also, to call back to a previous podcast, the best thing about that scene, Furret is there. Moving on.
Anyway, so, yeah, on to the best scene awards. I'll go first. The part where Ash goes Super Saiyan Sonic. Like, yes, I know the caveat with May, but all the same, at the end of the day, I don't care. It's Ash going Super Saiyan Sonic, and he actually has a proper fight that's not just a curb stomp with the pirate here, because the pirate still pulls out plans of his own here. No, that is one of the best climaxes I have ever seen in Pokemon. Holy cow, like, I will give this movie credit. One thing it is not is out of ideas. It has a ton of them, and a lot of them work. And that scene is the culmination of it, and it is so cool! Like, shoot, now Ash can literally tell his mother, I have gone Super Saiyan Sonic. I have absorbed the power of the gods. I nearly killed a man. He's fine.
That's nice, sweetie. Now go eat your food.
You know, the thing is, Shiroi, based off of Pokemon Free, his mom would probably believe him because even she's gotten caught up in all this BS. Whew. So yeah, that's going to be one heck of a show and tell story to tell his classmates when he finally comes back home.
And tells his mom and Misty and Professor Oak.
Wait, why would Misty be waiting for him back in Palatine?
At the end of when he came back from Kanto, and the first time Hoenn, she was there, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I just want to see how you're doing, and I want to hear your stories from Hoenn."
All right, that's my favorite scene. Shiroi, you next.
I guess the first few minutes of the movie, because
yeah,
I had no expectations going into this movie because so far there've been very few really, really good ones, and actually it was really fun, and like was hoping the entire movie was going to be like this. That turned out not to be the case, though we would get something at the end, as I said. But yeah, it was just like we started off with some good characters in that one, and yeah, I wanted to see more of them actually. So yeah, both the pirates and the rangers, like they put that movie off to a good start, and
I'd say that we get a good portion of them there. Like, the middle ground is there to give us a bit more of a quiet set-down scene here and there. Me, personally, I feel like stuff is balanced well enough. Like, yeah, no, the middle point still has its issues here and there, but it didn't feel to me like they forgot about, oh, yeah, we have these other factions here.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But yeah, my favorite scene is basically the movie's intro.
Perfect. Pedro.
I'm really struggling to come up with one that hasn't been said already. I guess the scene between Ash and Jack on the boat.
Okay.
You know, like I mean, their subplot ends up going nowhere, but that's something.
What subplot?
Well, I don't know. Like, it kind of when they have that little talk, like, it kind of feels like they're trying to maybe have Ash's B plot be that involving Jack, maybe, but then that's it. It just kind of peters out. So it's weird.
I never really got that feeling. Again, I'm not sure which talk you're talking about, even.
When they're on the boat, the two of them. There's one part where the two of them are alone and they talk about stuff.
Are you talking about the bit where? I think you're talking about where Jack tells him his origin.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a thing? I didn't really get a subplot being risen from that.
Well, you have a better idea for a scene, by all means suggest one. That's all I got.
Well, what I mean is, like, I don't really get the feeling that some subplot was being risen from that. That was just Jack telling Ash why he became a ranger.
Sure.
Okay, next up, Dedge.
Team Rocket saying Diamonds and Pearls.
Yes! Oh, I almost forgot about that.
A good idea for the game. And then when they say Diamonds and Pearl again, and Meow says, let's just make it through this season first.
Yeah, that was funny.
Okay, actually, Jovo wanted to know, would it have been okay if Manaphy kept behind? So, this chronologically, this movie takes place after the Kanto Grand Festival, given the fact that Ash has Apon with him, which meant May lost as she was so close from winning. Yes. And between having to say goodbye to this Pokemon that she adopted as a child, she becomes extremely depressed during the last stretch of Battle Frontier.
I guess that kind of checks out, since she does say she's not okay, but she will be later. And, this sort of stuff does take some healing.
Yeah, like, you feel bad for May, and, she gets over... She bounces back in the end. And the most unfortunate, tragic part is the next time we see her is her last time because of circumstances around, her voice actress that...
Oh, dear.
She unfortunately caught a throat disease, so she had to retire from singing and voice acting.
And unfortunately, when a voice actor tends to die, sometimes the character will get retired, or at the very least just never be able to speak again. Or
depending on how important the character is, because Professor Oak's original voice actor passed away, but because he voiced so many characters and was also the narrator, he needed to be replaced. He needs to be recasted.
Mm-hmm.
And in universe, when we see May, she went to Johto but came to Sinnoh to enter the Wallace Cup, and she said, "I'm going for a losing streak in Johto. I was hoping to win this competition as my comeback story. She loses." This character goes through so much.
We
never see her again until recently with that cameo she made in Journeys.
I'll say this though. I feel like May's losing streak is much better handled than Ash's infamous losing streak. Because May at least reacts to it like a person actually would, where Ash just gets back in the saddle with pretty much almost no reaction whatsoever each time.
Because he's so used to it by that point.
Yeah, I'd say Diamond and Pearl handled it the best.
Anyway, any other categories, or shall we move on to the finale?
Yeah, might as well.
So, final thoughts and scores. Pedro, why don't you go first?
Okay, so here's the thing about this movie. I feel like the thing about this movie is that this is the kind of thing that works a lot better in the actual show, where you could have a lot of episodes to properly. Because, like I said, the reason the Goodbye Pikachu episode works is because there were so many episodes before that one that properly, allowed us to just sit down and just watch all of it and just get used to the characters, get like everything. Whereas trying to compress something like this into a movie, like an entire thing that is into a movie, in my opinion, doesn't work nearly as well as that. Not that this movie is bad, mind you, it's just incredibly average, much like the Jirachi movie. Although I will say I enjoyed this more than the Jirachi movie. And yeah, it boils down to that. It's there. It's whatever. It's average for me. Like the villain's fine. The tribe is there. Brock is there. May and Manaphy are there for me. Like it's one of those cases where I just like, I don't know. I feel like the thing would work better for me if they gave Manaphy more of a personality. It's fine. It's better than movie 10. I'll give it that. Let me put it this way: movie 10 is movie 2, but more nonsensical. There you go. There's a sneak peek.
I don't know whether or not to be overjoyed at the roasting that movie is going to get, or terrified.
Well, we'll see.
So what's your score out of 10?
All right, score 5 out of 10. I guess it's fine.
Same score as Jirachi Wishmaker.
Actually, no. You're right. You're right. Actually, no, I can't. I guess I'll run it up to a 6, just for this, because I still enjoyed this.
I mean, remember, you can still you can change the score of other movies as well if you want.
No. I'm sticking to it. Like a 6 out of 10 for this one.
All right
then.
Jova?
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I really enjoyed this movie. I acknowledge that there are flaws, though. That being said, this is quite possibly one of the most polished Pokemon movies since Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. Like, and again, mind you, keep in mind, I know you may say, oh, well, I've given certain things higher rankings. Also keep in mind, I do adjust my scores based off of the weight of each one. Like, for example, with Team Go-Getters Get Out of the Gate, that one was a short film, and I adjusted accordingly, since at the end of the day, it was a small promotional movie as opposed to a big epic, like, say, something like this, or Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. So for what this movie does here, it introduces the concept of the Rangers to the movies, essentially, and handles it very well. Now we still do get some Pokemon battles, but we also get fights between humans, and it actually works out well here. The action scenes are top-notch. Like, we literally get it as soon as starting with the first scene, like Shuri mentioned, and it's so cool with Jack Walker. As to the characters, there's not even really a bad one, just ones that do less than others, but the characters who do matter the most and get the most done. Manaphy was a character who I thought was just going to be the cutesy Pokemon that made baby noises, but no, actually did have a character and growth to him as the Prince of the Sea here, who bonded with May, but also had to learn to be independent in and of itself here. And then my man Ash. Oh, Ash, you may have been losing the championships, but you sure won our hearts when you went Super Saiyan Sonic that day. Like, holy cow. And again, even before that, Ash is very productive, working with the heroes and thinking up good plans to get out of tight spots as well. And speaking of plans here, like I said, Phantom is hands down one of the best villains in this entire franchise. He's not the absolute pinnacle, but no, he's a very well-rounded out character, I'd say. I mean, sure, yeah, his goals are as simple as, I want power and treasure, but hey, Pokemon Pirate, it works. Again, in some ways, I'd say he's handled better than Archie, like Dead suggested.
When I was a kid, still learning science, basic science, and I found out what the villain's plan was, I thought that was insulting to me.
So I'm guessing you probably would have preferred Maxie, because he's more of a scientist than Archie.
Well, he's an average fighter, but he is a brilliant scientist.
Yeah, very much.
But yeah, no, Phantom's great. Team Rocket, they got to do enough, and hey, the body swapping thing was funny, as well were their fourth wall gags, too. Yeah, no, I feel like the pieces come together to form a pretty good and complete picture. There are still some flaws, though, so it's not perfect. That said, if I were to compare this to something like Destiny Deoxys, which I gave an 8 out of 10, screw it, I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. Like, again, it is close to pristine and perfect. It does still have some things holding it back. Like, yeah, May could have participated in the big finale. And yes, the middle ground does feel like it drags a bit here. That being said, I still do give the middle ground credit for actually properly flourishing up the relationship between May and Manaphy here. I would have given it an 8 out of 10, but I also gave Destiny Deoxys an 8 out of 10, and for as much as I do really like that movie, no, this one's better. Not perfect, but better. And holy crap, this is the first 9 I've given in quite a while, too. So yeah, no.
I can agree that this movie is better than Deoxys because, like I said, the climax in Deoxys to me just felt like it dragged really bad.
Whereas the climax here just feels like the right length. And again, it redeems a lot of the ideas of Pokemon Forever in a much, much better way and fashion. And again, the fact that I haven't even mentioned that there are flipping cool pirates in this shows that no, it's not just because of pirates that I love this movie. It helps, but if it were just the pirates alone, I would have ranked this way lower. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
It's a shame we couldn't get the Dwebs in here as a guest because he would have been screaming up and down about how he hates Manaphy with a passion.
Yeah.
So I have heard. Who's next,
Right.
Dedge?
I'll go. Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea is a very interesting movie to watch. It has a very excellent beginning and a very good climax. Unfortunately, the middle part drags and this movie is a lot longer than it should be. It's an obvious promotion for Gen 4 and a spin-off game. There are some cool character moments, and it's good to have May have the spotlight for a good chunk of it, even if Ash pulled a Goku. What's her? But overall, it's fine. Nothing too offensive. Could it have been better? Yes. But could it have been worse? Of course. And the overuse of CGI does get distracting a lot. Team Rocket are kind of just there, and same with Brock, and it feels like they had no idea what to do with these characters at this point.
Like I said, while there is a lot of CGI, I think what helped it for me is that the CGI here is actually good, unlike with Forever, where it was just, oh dear Lord God, no.
I think Destiny Deoxys CGI is the worst.
I still think Forever is the worst CGI-wise. Like, it just looks absolutely ugly there.
I'm gonna I look at these movies and I'm like, I think like this is definitely better than Heroes.
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
that was easy, Deji. That was easy.
Apparently,
I liked it more than Forever, and I figured I was the nicest one of the bunch with that movie.
Let's see. For Forever, you gave that one a 5.
Yeah.
Along with Pedro, actually. So you and Pedro were actually the nicest ones with Pokemon Forever.
But remember, the only reason I gave it a 5 was because of what 4Kids did to it. Not
True.
Yeah, if we were reviewing the original Japanese version, that score would be lower, probably to a 3.
Fair enough.
So overall, I'm gonna give this a 6. Like Jack Walker is the best character in this movie.
Same as me.
Yeah.
It's weird because like your reviews kind of sound a bit differing in tone here and there, but they both get the same score.
Well, here's the thing about, I can speak for Denji, but here's the thing for me. Like, Lucario raised the bar, and this movie's not quite meeting that bar.
Oh, I know why you scored it the way. I mean, I'm just pointing out the phenomenon where two reviews that sound like way different in tones of positivity and negativity can still get the same score review-wise.
Well, it's like I said, how people, use rankings work very differently from each other. There's no thing from person to person.
Speaking of which, Shiroi, take the floor with your score and review.
Okay. Despite what I said about the middle part, I really enjoyed this movie. It was one of the more fun Pokemon movies, I think. Definitely not the best at all, but it was nice to see other characters get the spotlight, and a lot of the newcomers were really fun as well. And because previously we haven't really seen any characters that are movie-specific just do all that much, but both the Pirates and Jack are all very fun characters. It would have been... I do agree that it would have been better to have a movie just about them, and it was said before that Ash and the others weren't originally planned to be part of this, if that's right.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, that kind of shows, honestly, but I still don't mind their inclusion. Again, aside from Max and Brock, Brock is just doing his usual shtick, and Max is being a child. That's literally all there is to it. As I said, I like May's relationship with Manaphy, and the soundtrack is a bit all over the place, but I don't really mind it. The CG, while noticeable, I don't mind it. My score would have been a lot higher if it wasn't for the middle portion, because I went from, oh, this is a lot of fun, to, okay, where'd the fun go? Like, where is it? We did get it again at the end, so I think my score for this one is 8.
Yep.
That's fair.
Okay, there we go.
All right, then. Let's see what that tallies the total up to.
All right, so 12 plus 8, which would be 20.
29.
Plus Jova's 9, 29. What?
29. 9 plus 80
Yeah,
plus
I'm just
17.
like, 29, really.
Well, how does that look overall?
It's it's one of the higher rated movies. In fact, let's see.
I was gonna give it a 9, and then the middle portion came in. So
yeah, again, the reason I still hold that 9 is like, I do feel like the middle portion, while it can feel a bit sluggish, does overall lend itself well
this is
to
our
its
third
contribution.
highest movie.
Yes.
Huh.
All right.
Yeah, because all right, so going from last, we have Legend of Thunder, then Digimon the movie, then Heroes, then Celebi, then The Power of One, Jirachi Wishmaker, Mewtwo Returns, Mewtwo Strikes Back, Destiny Deoxys, then Pokemon Ranger.
Nice.
And the top 2 in second place is Spell of the Unknown. And number 1 with a perfect score is Lucario and the Mystery of Mew.
Now
We all get to live another day.
You know what? I will say this. I am pleasantly surprised that I was fearful that after Lucario and the Mystery of Mew that it was just going to be downhill, and it was kind of. But okay, to be fair, Mastermind of Mirage was not like a full-fledged Pokemon movie. Same with Team Go-Getters out of the gate. The first proper.
Oh my god, I forgot where I put that one.
Wait.
No, not really. For me, it's one of those things where after the Lucario movie, the movies go back to business as usual, as in being fine but not amazing. It's in movie 10 where said downhill starts, in my opinion. So, are we done here?
Yeah. Shirai, I wrote a blurb.
So long, Hoenn. Now it's off to Sinnoh. I hope I said that right. The beginning of the epic trilogy that delves into the creation trio. Join Ash, Brock, and newcomer Dawn as they travel into Alamos Town. Unfortunately, they get caught in the middle of battle between Dialga, and Palkia?
Dialga and Palkia, yeah.
Okay, I didn't say. And to make matters worse, there's a mysterious Pokemon seeming to cause havoc. Tune in next time for Pokemon Rise of Darkrai. See you then.
See ya.
Alright, see ya.
Hello?
Yeah.
Bye.
Show's over, Trova.
So it seems they have left the door open accidentally. So they had some interesting takes for this, but I think I can still give my opinion. Or did they thought they could just forget about me? I don't think so. I think it's time for a little takeover. Yes, it appears that Deji has lowered his guard just enough so I can sneak in and leave my opinion on this movie as well. Why not? The others have done their recap just fine, so I will not comment much on it. However, I will go through the points that Deji has suggested as usual at the end of the movie and give my final thoughts during, the last one. Starting with worst character. Oh boy. I know that it's kinda like beating a dead mat's tail at this point, but for the third time in a row for a movie he appears in, I am sorry but I have to select Ash for this category. It's more the fact that he starts the movie just fine, but the more movie progresses, the more he kinda hijacks the plot, both from Jack, the Pokemon Ranger, and later on from May, as some of the others actually pointed out. And he gains yet another superpower that he wasn't needing. I'm kinda starting to get very annoyed at this point of this cliché. I know that again he's supposed to be the protagonist of the anime series and everything, but it feels so artificial the way the plot has to be remembered. Oh shit, Ash is supposed to be the protagonist, let's focus the attention and everything on him, on every single MacGuffin and Pokemon we can have, instead of constructing it properly from the beginning or something, Again, it feels as if May was supposed to actually go through the direction that Ash ultimately went through. And even so, considering the movie was supposed to be originally, ideally, a Pokemon Ranger exclusive product, I kinda wish they gave a female partner to Jack and both of them were the actual protagonist. The presence of the anime cast really does stick out, I have to notice. Best character. For this one, well, I have to be honest, I was going to pick Kyogre because of the Hyper Beam, and I consider my bias towards Gen 3, but Pedro unfortunately picked him, so I have to go, well, a choice similar to what Shirai said doing Pokemon Forever, and pick what is my nostalgic favorite Pokemon that shows up in this movie, Fearow. Sure, it's a brief scene and everything, and it's more like a temporary taming from Jack the Pokemon Ranger, but he gets shit done, and he's the one who actually defeats Team Rocket, sending them away instead of Pikachu, despite the fact that at that point they had gathered the egg, and as such Pikachu could have just, zapped them away. So that's pretty cool, actually. Worst scene. Okay, worst scene. Can I cheap out and say that every single time something in CGI shows up? Look, I wanna be fair, it's not on the levels of movie 7 and 8, where you see plasticine people, crowd shots and everything, or the abomination that was the Wood Golem in movie 4, but it's still pretty bad, and it's all over the place in the way the movie loves to use shots that use a lot of CGI, not just for vehicles, but also for exterior shots. And unlike in movie 8, where the castle exterior shot worked, in here, there's this particular scene, like when the characters are exiting the tunnels, and there's a scene of the coastline that is poorly rendered, and it looks like it came from a Myst video game. It's awful looking. Even at some point we even get some minor people shots, like for example the helicopters that are piloted by the crew of Captain LeChuck. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. The CGI bogging down pretty much what would be amazing scenes, like the one where LeChuck takes a boulder on his shoulders with Jack on top of it and tosses them. The boulder is rendered so poorly, it ruins the scene like that. Next. Best scene. Alright, favorite scene. I kinda have to go with the heist at the beginning, all the way, on part of Jack. It really is cool, actually, and it gives us the scope of an idea of what a solo Pokemon Ranger would have been. Before watching this movie, I had some minor preparation towards the Pokemon Ranger series. Unfortunately, I haven't played myself. I bothered to watch Jaden Animation's video that she did about the Darkrai video game, and a couple of gameplay and story beats from the very first, and yeah, it seems they got the general idea right with this movie, but it peters out as soon as the characters from the anime shows up and Jack really is relegated to the background. Again, I kind of wish he would have a more central role rather than a secondary one, let's be fair. Final thoughts and score. Okay, this movie is extremely stressing to me, because on one hand it's very cool as an action movie, there's always something going on, the villain is incredibly entertaining, and the overall quest is very reminiscent to movies like Atlantis, as the others pointed out, but as a Pokemon movie it's kinda weak. Like, it's more similar to, say, Fushigi no Nadia episode than a proper Pokemon movie. And, compared to the previous movie, that makes it kinda weak. Even the climax, because of that, is ruined, because it's just Ash doing his thing. Sure, Kyogre and the other water Pokemon arrive to save the day at the very end, but there's rarely Pokemon fighting in this, and the Pokemon feels just a very background element, similar to zombies in a bad The Walking Dead season. It's kind of a shame, to be honest. I wish there was more done with this. So this ultimately bogs down the experience to me. It's a shame because, again, the elements that are there, like May adopting Manaphy, the Pokemon Ranger stuff, and once again, the villain is just how stubborn and entertaining he is, would have made it a great experience, but between the CGI and the fact that this resembles only little a Pokemon movie, very superficial level, I kinda have to give it a 6 out of 10. It's sufficient, but it could have been so much more with just a little tinkering, and I kinda feel sorry for that. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully the next couple of movies will be a bit better on track when it comes to the balance. Who knows, but Pedro's statement doesn't fill in with confidence. But still, this was a fun ride. Although, now that I think about it, it seems that there is some unfinished business after all. Stuff from the past that I wasn't present in. Who knows what the future entails, especially if Deji keeps leaving the door open to this.